Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
It's our literature unit for the month of December, and it just happens to be during the Christmas season. And, of course, Christmas Eve is tomorrow, and Christmas Day is the day after tomorrow. So in order to properly celebrate Christmas, we're going to talk about a traditional story that most of us know about, entitled A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens.
We sure are. It's kind of famous. I would say it's really famous. It's a classic. It's not a full-length novel. It's a novella, which is shorter. And it's a wonderful little book. It came with illustrations when it was first published. And so people really fell in love with this book. I think it was published in 1843.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I remembered that. But it's one of those books that is part of our tradition, I think, at least in America and in Europe in some places. I was reading today, Tom, that earlier, before this was published, Christmas wasn't a major holiday.
Oh, no.
But when this book was published, people were so drawn to the book, they thought, oh, well, let's celebrate a little bit more on Christmas. We're going to talk about the plot in day 1 and 2, as we always do. And then day 3, we're going to talk about some of the themes of the book.
Ebenezer Scrooge, a miserly old man solely intent on accumulating wealth, resides in Victorian London. He dislikes Christmas and its celebrations because he perceives them as a waste of time and money. He runs a business named Scrooge and Marley, though his partner, Jacob Marley, died 7 years earlier. The firm now consists only of Scrooge and his sole employee, Bob Cratchit. Despite the business's success, Scrooge compensates Cratchit with a meager wage and treats him harshly. On a bitterly cold Christmas Eve, Scrooge's stinginess is on display. He refuses to add more coal to the office fire, causing Cratchit to shiver at his desk. As they endure these harsh conditions, Scrooge's nephew Fred arrives with holiday wishes and an invitation to Christmas dinner. Scrooge turns him down with the phrase, "Bah, humbug," exclaiming that Christmas is a fraud. Subsequently, when 2 gentlemen come to seek donations for the poor, Scrooge also dismisses them. As the day draws to a close, he reluctantly allows Cratchit the day off for Christmas. That evening, Scrooge is visited by the ghost of Marley, who is bound by chains composed of account books, deeds, and cash boxes. Marley reveals that his own lack of compassion and charity in life has condemned him to endlessly wander in regret. He warns Scrooge that he faces a similar destiny unless he changes his behavior. Marley also predicts the visitation of 3 spirits, the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and yet to come, to guide Scrooge towards redemption. Scrooge falls asleep after Marley departs, unaware that this strange visit is the beginning of a night that will change his life forever. Okay, everybody, it's time for us to discuss the contents of our lesson for today. We are rediscovering the Christmas spirit with Dickens's A Christmas Carol. So, because this book came out in 1843, and as you said earlier, Christmas really wasn't a big holiday back then. Maybe it was celebrated in churches or whatever, but it wasn't really celebrated by society as a whole. You didn't have people running around singing Christmas carols and decorations all over the place like we do nowadays. So we have to rediscover the Christmas spirit because we kind of forgot about it in the past, and now we want to relive the Christmas spirit. We don't want to take it for granted.
Well, let's dive into this, guys. First of all, I should probably explain what a Christmas carol is. To us, a Christmas carol is a Christmas song. And when the Christmas carols first started, of course, they were all religious songs that you would sing in church because Christmas, of course, is the celebration of the birth of Jesus Christ. And so when we first started, we had things like Silent Night.
Do you hear what I hear? I think that's a religious too.
Yeah,
right?
there are a lot of those Christmas carols that are focused more on the religious aspect. Nowadays, we have other songs. We don't call them Christmas carols per se, or we could call them just Christmas songs, but that's what a carol here actually means. Now, we're going to look at the plot of this book. We've got a character named Ebenezer Scrooge.
Ooh.
And actually, we now use his last name to call somebody who's kind of a 小气. We call them a Scrooge. Oh, he's a real Scrooge, or my boss is a Scrooge. If somebody doesn't want to let go of money very easily, or they don't seem very generous, sometimes we'll call them a Scrooge. Well, Ebenezer Scrooge is the original. I don't know where Charles Dickens got that name from, but at the time he came up with it, it did not mean somebody who was not generous. So it's come to mean that because everybody is familiar with this story. We're describing him as miserly. He's an old man, and he is solely or only intent on accumulating wealth, which means to make as much money as possible. If you accumulate, you gather something together. And he resides or lives in Victorian London. So kind of tells us the time period there.
Right. So again, he's miserly, which means he's 小气, as we say in Chinese, but also you could say that he's tight with money. He's a tightwad. You could also say he's stingy. You could use those words to describe someone who is very tight with their money.
Yeah.
And yes, he just wants to accumulate wealth. He just wants to get more and more money. And he lives in London during the Victorian era, which is when Queen Victoria was the reigning monarch of the United Kingdom. And it was kind of a conservative period of time. And so he's probably very conservative himself. Now, he dislikes Christmas and its celebrations because he perceives them as a waste of time and money. All right, so I guess some people might be like that. Oh, Christmas, it's a waste of time. We could be working and making money. Why should we stop working and have a vacation for a week? Why should we get a week off from work when we could be making money? And then we're going to spend a bunch of money on Christmas gifts that people will get bored of only in a couple of days. It's just a big waste of time. And that's how he perceives it. That's his perception. That's his point of view. Yeah, he thinks that these things are just a waste of time and money. Let's just keep on working and making money.
So if you perceive something, as Tom was saying, that's how you view it. That's your opinion. That's your viewpoint. Other people could perceive a situation or something in a completely different way based on their background and what they believe to be true. So this is his perception. Christmas is a waste of time and money. He runs a business, and his business is named or called Scrooge and Marley. Marley, though, his partner, Jacob Marley, has already passed away. He died 7 years earlier when the story starts out or the story takes place.
Right. And the place is still called that, even though Marley is already dead. And the firm, this business, now consists of only Scrooge and his sole employee, Bob Cratchit. So those are the only two people who work in this company now. The boss, of course, Ebenezer Scrooge, and his sole employee, his only employee, Bob Cratchit.
That's right. We used sole earlier in the first sentence, solely. Here, again, it just means only, his one and only, Bob Cratchit. So despite the business's success, and it's very successful, Scrooge compensates or pays Cratchit with a meager wage and treats him harshly. He's really mean to Cratchit. If you've ever seen this movie or the cartoon, we'll talk about that later. Yeah, you could probably, relate to being that poor employee. Why is my boss so mean to me? They make a lot of money there, but Scrooge doesn't share some of that wealth with Bob Cratchit. He pays him a meager wage. Meager means very, very small. Maybe you were naughty and your parents decided you only deserved a meager dinner. They only give you a little bit of food and said, go to bed. You've been bad today. So meager just means a very small amount. And of course here, again, he treats him harshly. He's very mean, rude, nasty.
Right, probably yells at him, makes him work overtime and things like that. And now in the next paragraph it says, on a bitterly cold Christmas Eve, which is actually tomorrow, Scrooge's stinginess is on display. Now, earlier I used the word stingy. That's the adjective. It means you're tight with money. You don't like to spend money. And stinginess is the noun. So because of his stinginess, he is actually very stingy on Christmas Eve. Because of his stinginess, then everybody can see it. It's on display. He's acting like a very stingy man, and it's very obvious.
He's so bad that he refuses to add more coal to the office fire. Back then, they did not have heaters or heating systems like we have today in our homes. So they had to rely on fires and kind of a coal stove that people would put into their homes. And you would add that coal, which was hard to breathe. Sometimes I have to mention that.
Yeah, I wonder how they burned it to get the smoke to go outside or whatever.
It was tough. Those people had a tough life back then.
You can imagine how polluted London was because of all the smoke from the burning coal.
It was a mess. If you've ever seen old pictures or even drawings, they show how dirty everything is. So they had to add more coal in order to heat a place up. But Scrooge said no. The office doesn't need to be warm and comfortable. And this caused Cratchit to shiver at his desk. If you shiver, you shake very quickly back and forth. If you see an animal who's cold or scared, you'll often see them shiver. Or maybe somebody is afraid and they start shivering. Usually it's because of the weather. If you're outside and you don't have a warm enough coat or sweater, you'll start to shiver a bit.
Right, you're shivering because it's so cold. Yeah, so this causes Bob Cratchit to shiver at his desk, so he probably has to wear an extra scarf and wear gloves while he's working or whatever. And as they endure these harsh conditions, Scrooge's nephew, Fred, arrives with holiday wishes and an invitation to Christmas dinner. Okay, so while they're doing this, both of them have to endure or to handle this harsh condition or these harsh conditions. And while this is going on, Scrooge's nephew arrives in a really happy mood. So if something's harsh, it's very difficult to handle. It's very difficult to get through. You could have harsh conditions. For example, if it's really hot in the desert and you don't have enough water, that's a very harsh condition. And here it's very cold in the office. Scrooge is probably shivering as well, but he doesn't care because he's thinking, well, I might be cold, but at least I'm saving money.
Or I'm getting richer as I sit here and shiver. Yeah, it's pretty bad. We're going to talk more about Scrooge's nephew, Fred, and the relationship they have and the family and this upcoming dinner. But first, guys, we're going to take a quick break and listen to our Chinese teacher.
听众朋友大家好，我是安娜。我们今天开始连续3天要带大家来看一个真的是很经典的故事，小气财神。小气财神，可是在英文的书名当中，故事名叫做 A Christmas Carol， 或者是中文有时候会翻成圣诞颂歌。好，那不管是小气财神还是圣诞颂歌，都是同样这个狄更斯大文豪的作品。当然圣诞颂歌比较不能够精准的讲出这个故事的主题啦，我觉得小气财神这样中文翻的好像比较能点出它的 theme 主题。好，那我们在说这个故事之前再提醒大家，就是说有时候一些文学作品啦，或者是电影，当我们在描述情节的时候，我们都知道这些故事都发生了嘛，才写出来或者是拍出来，但是我们描述情节的时候都可以用现在式。为什么呢？因为这些作品其实可以不断重复的被人观看，所以过去、现在、未来都是这样子的一个情节的时候，我们其实就可以用简单现在式来描述。那当然看故事的时候一定要知道5个 W 1个 H 啦，或者是老师曾经跟你说故事就要按照故事山的发展，怎么样的场景，然后怎么样的 rising action 怎么发展，最后的 climax 故事最高潮到底是什么东西，然后最后结尾如何。我们同样在这样子的一个这个依据之下呢，其实第一段就给我们很多的资讯咯。比如说在第一段的第一句就告诉我们主角是谁，主角就是 Ebenezer Scrooge， Scrooge 是他的 last name 嘛，我们在这个故事当中就会说 Scrooge 这个人如何呢？他是一个很这个吝啬的一个老人，他一心只想要做什么呢？他一心只想要累积财富。在同样的第一段第一句的地方，句尾前面2个字告诉了我们时间跟地点。因为 Scrooge resides in, lives in， 他是居住在 Victorian London， Victorian 指的是维多利亚时代，好，那个是时间。那伦敦呢，就是它这个故事发生的地点咯。接下来我们就要谈一谈这个 persona 啦，这个人物志啦。好，他年纪大，然后喜欢钱，住伦敦，然后在维多利亚时代怎么样呢？个性如何呢？第二句 He dislikes Christmas， 这个 what 出现，他就很不喜欢圣诞节，而且他觉得圣诞节要庆祝的时候根本就是浪费钱浪费时间呐。在第二句这边我们可以把动词的 perceive 抓出来，因为 perceive 就是一种感知感受，就是觉得，它常常会跟 as 放在一起。他觉得圣诞节 as 就是 a waste of time and money。 当然还有别的主角啊配角嘛，其实那个 Marley 也算是一个很厉害的一个主角在故事当中。接着第三句看到他目前有一个公司，这个公司的名字 named 到逗点可以左右括号，关系子句的简化。这公司名字叫做 Scrooge and Marley， 所以 Marley 是谁呢？ Marley 就是他的 partner， 后面提到的 Jacob Marley。Marley 也是这个合伙人的 last name 嘛，所以他们的公司名字叫做 Scrooge and Marley， 不过7年前就过世了。那这个公司呢，现在只有 Scrooge， 而且他只雇了一个员工哦，这个员工是 Bob Cratchit， 而且他对 Cratchit 非常吝啬，非常的小气。接下来到第二段开始要发展了。在一个寒冷刺骨的圣诞夜的时候， Scrooge 他的吝啬实在是表现无遗，因为他居然不在办公室添加一些煤火，然后呢，他的唯一的雇员冷到一直发抖，一直发抖。第二段这个第二句的地方有一个关系子句的简化，我们把逗点的 causing 抓出来，还原是 which causes， 可特别小心哦。 which 如果是在补充说明的关系子句当中，它的先行词可能是逗点前面的整句话，我们根据为意来判断。没有错，在这句话当中，的确从 he 到 fire 这个地方，这整件事情 which causes 就导致他唯一的雇员一直不断的发抖。甚至他的侄子 Fred 带着一些圣诞祝福还有圣诞晚餐的邀请来访的时候，他还拒绝了呢。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. It's our literature unit, and we're focusing on the classic tale called A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, a very, very popular, very famous writer of English literature. He's written a lot of great books. I have a copy of David Copperfield. I was forgetting the name. In my apartment that a friend gave me, a very nice edition of David Copperfield, which is also great. But he spent a lot of his life focused on people who didn't have a lot of money, being treated poorly, especially in London or in that area where he grew up. But we'll talk about that more later. Today, we're going to focus on the plot. So we started off telling you about the protagonist. The main character here is Ebenezer Scrooge. And he's very, very stingy with his money. He, of course, lives in Victorian London. He hates Christmas because he thinks it's a waste of time and money. He doesn't want to buy presents for people. Why would he do that? And he certainly doesn't want to go to any parties. So he runs a business. His business is named Scrooge and Marley. We found out that his partner, Jacob Marley, is already dead. He died 7 years earlier. And the firm now consists only of Scrooge, the owner, and his one and only employee, Bob Cratchit. And he doesn't pay Bob Cratchit very much money and treats him poorly. So on a bitterly cold Christmas Eve, Scrooge's stinginess is on display. Everyone can see how stingy he is. He refuses to even add more coal to the office fire, and that causes poor Cratchit to shiver at his desk. Tom gave a good demonstration of that before the break. As they endure these harsh conditions, in comes Scrooge's nephew, Fred. Fred's a really cheerful fellow, and he arrives with holiday wishes and an invitation to Christmas dinner. Now, remember, Fred is Scrooge's nephew, meaning Scrooge is his uncle.
Exactly. It could be his sister's son or his brother's son. We don't know which one. But Fred probably knows that Scrooge is really stingy, really miserly, but he comes by every Christmas every year just because he has this kind of Christmas spirit. And again, he brings holiday wishes. Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays. And then he says, hey, if you got some time, you can come to Christmas dinner. We've got, turkey, we've got stuffing, we've got mashed potatoes, we've got pumpkin pie and stuff like that.
Well, they don't have all that food. They don't have a lot of money, Tom.
I'm just wishing they had that kind of food.
Yeah.
They probably have a goose or something like that. But Scrooge turns him down with the phrase, bah humbug, exclaiming that Christmas is a fraud. Now, this phrase, bah humbug, is very common in English-speaking areas, and it only refers to this particular story. If somebody says bah humbug, you know they are referring to A Christmas Carol because we don't use it in any other situation. Humbug just means nonsense. It's just it's just a waste of time. Why enjoy Christmas? Because we've got money to make.
Or if someone's being really cheerful and somebody else is in a bad mood, the person in a bad mood might say, oh, bah humbug, like, shut up. I don't want to hear all your cheerfulness. So, yeah, he exclaims at that point that Christmas is a fraud. It's fake. It's not real. Why are we wasting all this time and money on Christmas? Well, after that, or subsequently, because of that happening, two gentlemen come then to seek donations for the poor. Oh, they're coming to get some charity from old, rich Scrooge, who doesn't want to part with any of his money, as you know. And Scrooge also dismisses them. If you dismiss someone, you say, they can go, they can leave. You can be rude and dismiss someone in a very impolite way. Or maybe you're in class and your teacher says, class is dismissed, to be dismissed. Here, he just says, get out of here. I don't want to give away any of my money to poor people.
To be dismissed also can mean you are fired from your job, but he gets rid of them. He says, go away. I'm not going to give any money to charity. And as the day draws to a close, as it becomes night, he reluctantly allows Cratchit the day off for Christmas. He does not want to do this, but he has decided maybe it's a better thing to do. My employee does have to have time with his family once in a while so that he can come back to the office and work hard. So he reluctantly does this. This is the adverb form of the adjective reluctant, which means you're unwilling to do something, you're hesitant, you don't really want to do it. You might reluctantly pay your bills, for example. Oh, I don't want to pay my electric bill, but I know I have to, but you're reluctant because you'd rather spend the money on something else, but you know you need to do it. So he allows Cratchit to have the day off for Christmas, but he probably demands that he come back first thing the day afterwards.
Now, that evening, Scrooge is visited by the ghost of Marley. Remember, Marley's his old partner that passed away, and his ghost comes to visit him. Ooh, pretty scary. And he's bound, Marley is bound or tied up by chains. Chains are those links that, it's a series of metal links that are joined together. You can keep someone captive by putting them in chains. Or maybe you have a dog and you chain him so he can't run away.
Right.
So he is chained, or his chains are made up of or composed of account books, deeds, and cash boxes. So it's keeping Marley from being free as a ghost. So he's pretty miserable as he is bound by these chains. Remember, composed of just means made up of something. Maybe you're making something that's composed of very fine ingredients. You're making a new dish of food for your family. It can be composed of or made up of those ingredients. Here, his chains are composed of all the things he did while he was working in that office.
Right. The account books, the deeds are the documents, and the cash boxes, the boxes that held the money. And Marley reveals that his own lack of compassion and charity in life has condemned him to endlessly wander in regret. So this is a very splendid opportunity for Scrooge to see what happens after you die. This ghost comes and tells him what it's all about. During life, he was miserly, just like Scrooge, and he now regrets it. He had a lack of compassion and charity in his life. Okay, so compassion here just means feeling for other people. You have a sense of how they feel. You have sympathy for them. You have pity. You have concern for them. So he did not have this compassion. He did not care. It's like, hey, I work hard to make my money. You need to do the same thing. If you can't do it, well, that's your problem. So he lacked this compassion, and he also lacked charity. He did not want to help people out by giving them donations or whatever, or helping them out in whatever way. And because of these traits in his personality, he has been condemned to walk endlessly year after year in regret. That's probably a very horrible way to spend the afterlife.
Now, most people in the UK at this point were all Christians. So if you're condemned to wander endlessly, you're probably condemned to go to hell because you were such a bad person while you were living on earth. So he warned Scrooge, his old partner. He says, hey, you might have the same destiny or same fate unless you change your behavior, unless you change your ways, which are really not good. Marley also predicts or says this is going to happen in the future, that Scrooge is going to have a visitation of 3 spirits. And here they are, ghosts of Christmas past, present, and yet to come. 3 different ghosts are going to come see him. They're going to guide Scrooge towards redemption. Redemption is this idea, especially in Christianity, that you've been doing evil deeds, but then through Jesus Christ, you're saved. You change your ways, you repent, you try to be a better person, and that's going to save you. You won't have to go to hell. And that's when Scrooge then falls asleep and Marley leaves. He departs.
Exactly. So again, he falls asleep, and this happens after Marley departs, and Scrooge is unaware that this strange visit is the beginning of a night that will change his life forever. So maybe he thought he was imagining things. Maybe he thought he was hallucinating or imagining things were there. Maybe he did not believe it, so he went to sleep thinking, that was probably just a bad dream or something. Nothing's going to happen. So he did not know that he was going to be visited by 3 spirits during the night, and these are different spirits representing the past, the present, and the future. So we've got the ghost of Christmas past, the ghost of Christmas present, and the ghost of Christmas yet to come, which means the ghost of the future. And he's going to learn a lesson from each of these ghosts. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Here comes our Chinese teacher.
他怎么拒绝呢？接着我们来看第2段的第4句。这个第4句我们先把逗点之后的 exclaiming 这边把它抓出来。它还原的话其实是连接词 and 的省略。为什么？因为句子其实有第一个动词叫做 turns him down， 就是拒绝了他的侄子邀请。好，关键在于他用什么来拒绝呢？他大喊了一句话，他说了 bah humbug。 bah humbug 是什么东西啊？其实就是因为这个文豪的这个经典的作品 bah humbug 其实也只有 Scrooge 他说出来，它就是一个固定的俗语，用于表达通常是令人很开心的东西，可是你却有所不满，尤其是在指圣诞节的时候。所以把 humbug 如果翻成中文的话，通常会翻成呸，胡说八道，呸，骗子的意思。好，各位听众朋友，你只要在12月底之前到空中美语的官网上面回答正确答案，就有机会可以抽中 iPhone 等大奖哦。好，那么接着呢，我们就来赶快把故事看完。那既然 Scrooge 就已经拒绝了他的侄子 Fred， 而且还大骂圣诞节就是一个骗局，之后怎么样呢？那一天晚上，我们来到了第3段。Scrooge 被 Marley， 也就是他之前的合伙人拜访，而且 Marley 的身上呢，居然绑着那种由账簿契约、钱箱组成的锁链呢。而且 Marley 告诉他，就是因为他没有同情心，没有慈善心，所以接下来他才一直在悔恨当中徘徊。而且 Marley 还预言3个幽灵会显灵哦。接下来主角 Scrooge 会看到3个鬼。哪3个鬼呢？出现在最后面这一段第4句的地方。 The ghosts of Christmas past， 耶诞节过去的鬼， present 现在的鬼， and yet to come 还有未来的鬼。故事会怎么发展呢？我们明天继续听故事。
That's all the time we have for today, everybody, but make sure you join us again next time on Christmas Eve when we continue to reinvent or rediscover the Christmas spirit with Dickens's A Christmas Carol. Please join us then. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.